I've had a lot of clients lately asking questions about whether they can get reimbursed or extra money out of their marital estate in the divorce negotiations process if their spouse cheated on them. And well, of course, we're not attorneys. I'm not an attorney and I can't give legal advice, so I can't really speak to the legal issues around that. But what I can do is talk about what the attorneys and clients have us do to assist with those types of issues. And of course, different jurisdictions have different rules about how this applies, but the general concept that I just wanted to mention is what the attorneys refer to as a waste claim. So what that is a dollar amount that's been determined by evidence of transactions that we would compile based on looking at a bunch of different pieces of information and supporting documents to verify that money was spent on the affair that was community funds and needs to be reimbursed to the marital estate before dividing up the marital estate in the divorce process. So for example, if your spouse had an affair and took their mistress or mister on trips, on vacations, and you can track the money that was spent on those particular trips, then we can go in and compile all of the data in the credit card statements, bank statements, and we can even verify against social media, other types of things that we can look at to determine if there's any evidence that those charges were related to extramarital activities. And then we would compile all that data to come up with a total dollar amount of what the attorneys would refer to as wasteful spending that would then be a request for reimbursement to the marital estate before dividing up the assets and debts in the marital estate. So that is one way, at least that I know of, that people can be potentially compensated for the financial impact that you or your spouse experienced as a result of an extramarital affair. So there are other jurisdictions that may award a higher percentage of the marital estate to the victim spouse who was cheated on, but I would not count on that. In my experience, of course, I'm not an attorney, like I said, I can't give legal advice, but from what I've seen and what I hear from the attorneys typically is that you never know if a judge is going to be sympathetic with you or with your spouse or not care at all whether they had an affair or not, because a lot of judges take the position that if they had an affair, that there was something wrong with both of you in the marriage. And of course, that's not a fair statement to make necessarily for everyone, but judges have to go based on what information they have available to them at the time, and of course from their own experience in handling cases in the past. And so they all have different experience and different opinions. And in most jurisdictions that I've seen, there's not really clear law-based guidance on how to handle those. So it becomes up to the judges to make a decision about whether or not a higher percentage of the marital estate should go to the victim spouse if the other one cheated. But I have seen a lot of waste claim compilation projects come across my desk, and I have seen some win those cases as well in mediation or in court. So if that's something that you have concerns about and that there's a significant dollar amount, of course, I would recommend going back to a previous video where I ask the question, is the juice worth the squeeze? Make sure that the cost of hiring a forensic accountant to be able to testify in court about these waste claims is going to be more than the dollar amount of the waste claim that you would potentially benefit from. And I would say significantly more to make it worth it, because forensic accountants add time and stress sometimes to the divorce process because they have to have time to do their work and issue a report. And so that can increase the length of time before your divorce is going to get to court or be finalized if they are involved. So think about whether it's worth it to do those kinds of projects, and You can certainly do some of your own digging and documentation of the transactions, because even if you do end up hiring a forensic accountant, they can utilize that information to help pinpoint where the transactions are that they should look for, and reduce the amount of time it takes them/us to do the work. So it is a helpful exercise if it is something that you're going to hire a forensic accountant to do, or not. If you are planning to make a waste claim request on your own, you can do that and document the transactions as well. I would just be prepared to have evidence of that if you're going to ask for it yourself without a forensic accountant. Make sure you've got sufficient evidence that there's no question from the other side about whether or not those transactions are actually related to anything outside the marriage and inappropriate. So yeah, follow me for more tips and tricks on the financials in divorce.